TVDC office, and he just wanted to get a summary of this election that we just had concluded on Tuesday. So, Bob, what's coming up?
Good morning, Democrats. Good morning. Actually, Deb Ferris is the current chair. I'm the state committee man, but wanted to quickly report on the special election that we had on Tuesday. Good news and bad news. The bad news is we did not win, but we thank Ash Marwalk for it. So now the good news. We have managed to get our vote by mail enrollment up to over 36%. That's important because people enrolled in vote by mail vote at a much higher rate. So that's one of the that's why we've been badgering you for months to re-enroll. And the Republicans are trying to make it as hard as possible that you have to re-enroll after every election. So over 36%. We had a voter turnout, Democratic voter turnout of 39%. And compared to like presidential election, you think that's terrible. In special elections, normal turnout is 18 to 20%. So with your help, we were up to 39%. So very, very good. A couple of other things for those of you who follow Midas Touch. They had a big presentation on that online, and we were prominently mentioned along with the Miami mayor. And in Sumter County, we had an 18-point swing left, and in the Senate district, we had a 22-point swing. So thank you all very much for voting. The only other thing is we have a few flyers. We'll send it out via email, and it will appear in the Buzz. We are having a comedy and magic show at the end of January, so please join us.
Thank you very much, Bob. And just want to mention, Bob, with Christmas right around the corner, that we have some idea for a Christmas gift for a favorite Democrat you guys may know at home or maybe further away from home that you want to mail to, is that our umbrellas. They are going now all over the country, so you can be the first to hand it to somebody in another part of the country. And also what we have is some extra boxes in case you want to mail more than one. And handy dandy post office has these boxes you can put a bunch into and mail them. They all fit. And we also have over on that table some extra memorabilia from prior campaigns, bumper stickers, buttons. Those are all free. So if you want to throw them in the box and mail it to a friend, feel free to do it. So everything's free. It's on the table under the cloth. Let me see what else we got. Okay. The board has a couple of members that have transitioned out, so that's what we're doing with the orange ballots going in here. And Phyllis, you mentioned that there's how many? Oh, and we're collecting them in the basket back here. And Phyllis says, so if we have any ballots you want to turn in, just put them in the box here, or call her parliamentary. Phyllis, you said something about 3 months, whatever, the term?
No, I think it's a typo. It says these positions will serve through March of 26.
Yes.
That's only 3 months.
Okay.
So they serve for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Hunker down. 2
Okay.
years.
Okay. I don't know if the people that are on the ballot know that, but they are now. That's right. Oops. Let's see what else we have going on. So, special election and the, okay. What I'd like to do is go to the first slide, if you don't mind. And this is what's going on in prices. There's a person that ran for office and said he's going to bring prices down on day one. Well, this is what happens. And every month we go out to 3 of the stores in the area. That'd be Target, Walmart, and Publix, and we get the price of a head of lettuce. And we've been doing this since June of last year. And you can see what's gone on with the price of lettuce. You can see how it spikes. Well, that's when when ice was let loose in the agriculture field areas of California, and it basically dried up lettuce throughout the country. That's the reason for the 25% increase. And if you noticed, has it gone down since then? No.
You mean Trump lied?
Yeah. Oopsie. His policies do have implications. So when you hear about inflation and things like this, we have this as well as the next slide, which is for orange juice, something near here in Florida. Okay? And you can see that basically it's been flat line on prices. There's been no progress, if you will, as far as reducing the prices to the consumer. We have this plus about 4 or 5 other products that we do this monthly survey for. And we put this on our website, which is located on the next slide. And this is what's the name of the website? No club, it's plural, the Villages Democrats, okay? And on that, where it says economic, news and economics, you click on that, and it'll take you down to, you select grocery store prices. So if you're talking to any friends, and they start talking about inflation, hey, here's some hard numbers that are right here in our own backyard. Thank you very much. I'm going to, anybody here watch Rachel Maddow? Okay. You know how she starts off a story, and then sometimes you kind of go, wow, where's she taking that? Okay, well, I was watching Rachel, I thought, maybe I'll try that. Okay? Now, what I'm looking at here is a little bit of a memory tour, reminiscence-wise, what's going on in the state of Florida with regards to presidential votes, or ballots, or elections. And the reason I have that on there is that I host the new members meeting every month. And there's a thing of when people first are looking to move to the villages, there's a tendency to think that this area is really red, or the state of Florida is really red. Well, the reality of it is, it's more purple. And as you can see that the different election cycles, starting off with 1992 in the far left, that is the Bill Clinton and George Bush first election, that's what Bill won. And then the next year, or pardon me, the next election cycle was in 96, Bill Clinton won. And he took Florida, okay? 2 elections forward. And we have Barack Obama in 08 and also in 12. And both of those election cycles brought Florida voted for Barack Obama, and he picked up all the electoral college votes from the state of Florida, which basically sealed the deal as far as his victory. But I also want to point out, see that horizontal line, the dashed line there? That is the 50% mark. You can see how both sides have been very, very close to that. It has not been a rout by any stretch. And in fact, if you think about the Gore-Bush vote, okay, that was like kind of close. Yeah, all right. So the whole point is that it's been very close. 26, or probably 24 was an aberration, okay? Harris, accordingly, was putting her time into the swing states, the important ones, if you will. We were very close, but it was like that's where her energy went to. So the whole point is that Florida is a swing state, or it's purple. It's not red, it's not blue, it's purple. We go to the next slide. And the question is, where are the red and where are the blue? There's a tendency to see maps that show the county boundaries that will be red and blue, and it looks like, oh my gosh, the entire state of Florida is red. Well, that's based upon the size of the boundary of the county. The vast majority of Florida, as well as almost every other state, is going to be rural when you look at a map of it, okay? But when you look to where the population is based upon, and that's what really what counts in the votes, that's what the circles are. As you can see, in the urban areas, the Miamis, the Orlandos, the Tampas, the Jacksonville, they're all large and they're all blue. That holds true throughout the country. be it Texas or California, you have the same phenomenon taking place. It's the urban areas that are blue, while the red areas have a tendency to be redder and rural areas. So why is that important? Because you can see that it's fairly well balanced within Florida as well as it is with the rest of the country. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, thank you. I'm going to do a very brief explanation, and I realize this is a football, okay, but it's an analogy-wise of something very important that's going on with regards to how the races, the special races that have been taking place in the country over the past couple months. Okay, so you got two teams, okay, this is a football, hang with me. You got the Chiefs and you got the 49ers, okay? The Chiefs win the first game in September, and they win by 14 points. The next time they play is in December, and the Chiefs only score 17 points, and the 49ers go up by 3 points, okay? So, the Chiefs still won, but they won not by 14, they won by 4. In other words, the spread has decreased. Because after this most recent election that took place in Tennessee very recently, I saw people that were upset that the Democrat didn't win. What she did was materially reduced the amount of spread between what had taken place earlier in November compared to the most recent election in the special election that occurred. So, anyway, I'm going to do one more slide. I'm going to wrap. Thank you. So this took place, remember back in April of this year, we had Florida 6 that took place just on the north of us, all right? And what took place was that in November of 24, the Republican had polled 67%, the Democrat had polled 34%. But after having Trump in office, and does anyone remember a guy named Elon Musk and Doge? Okay, look at the damage that ensued to the Republican Party. Okay, you can see how the drop took place in May. That's only he'd only been in office for 3 months at this point. All right, and then over the right-hand side, how the Democrat had gone up. The whole point is the spread, if you will, was picked up as 19 here. All right, and this is happening in the 4 other special elections that have occurred. That the spread, the narrowing, has been material in areas that are traditionally red in nature. Also happened in 2 of the blue areas. But with that in mind, I am going to hold the rest of my slides till a future date, and I would like to introduce Harry Lumpkin. Harry is here to talk about the Martin Luther King Jr. Commemorative Committee, which provides scholarships in the amount of $4,000 to local graduating high school seniors. In the 24 years, the committee has awarded $700,000. 24 years, $700,000. That is material help for students who are in college. Harry's a retired Army colonel with 26 years of active duty. He's served in the graduate. He's a graduate of the Army War College and has 2 master's degrees. He ranks. And he's a full-time resident of the Villages now since 2009. With that, Harry.
Thanks very much, Bill. I guess you see me with my Army hat. That's because today is the Army-Navy football day. So to my Army buddies, well done. To our Navy friends, we say go Army, beat Navy. Well, I tell you, it is great to be here. This is my second time to have had an opportunity to speak to you. And you may wonder why an Army guy would do this. For my particular situation, I have spent the 26 years in. I was General Colin Powell's briefer in the Pentagon. My job also was to go to West Point to be a professor there, and my job was to develop women and bring the first women into the academy. I commanded at all levels, from Vietnam through Desert Storm and through Panama. I have been blessed that I never lost one soldier in all 3 wars. Now, I didn't tell you that to be patting Harry Lumpkin on the back. I did that to share with you what a difference having support makes to individuals in their lives. The Martin Luther King Commemorative Committee, as you saw in the Daily Sun, of the 25 top donating organizations in the villages, the MLK Committee, at $700,000, is the top donor in the villages. That particular organization, and our committee only has 15 people, and we don't do things like golf tournaments or anything else. We get donations from all of you, and those donations go into a pot. This year, we are donating and we'll be presenting 15 scholarships at $4,000 each. And they will take place on the 10th of January at the Savannah Center at our breakfast. Now, our breakfast is $22 per person. I know that this is the same date of your meeting. And if you so desire, if you can't come personally, if you would like to make a donation to help some individual, when we give free complimentary tickets to kids and their parents, especially the scholarship winners, I'll be up here with my teammate, Connie, and we would be happy to take any donations that you have. It would really help us. I will share this one last thing with you. 2 years ago, at our breakfast, of over 400 people attending, a young lady who is very seasoned in age, she was about 88 years old. She walked up to me and she said, "Colonel, I am so proud of these young people. I really want to help. Would you," and I'm not rich like some of you individuals in the villages, but I would like to make a donation. And she said, "Would you mind?" I said, "Ma'am, I would be happy to accept your donation." She turned her back, reached down in her blouse, and pulled out a handkerchief. And it was tied so tight, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to help her or what. But she untied the handkerchief, and she had 3 quarters. And she gave me all 3 quarters. And I share that story because sometimes you don't understand how much it means to get your support. And by all means, instead of getting a filet mignon this week, get a hamburger. And donate, if you possibly could, to the scholarship program to continue to help our young kids. And then the last thing I will say, the MLK scholarship is open to everyone. It does not mean a specific race, gender, or religion. It is an opportunity to help all kids. And the scholarship program is designed where we evaluate applications based on their academic achievement, their community service, and their willingness to step up and be all that they can be. And when we give them their essay question on the application, it's in 2 parts. First, the question deals with the values, norms that Martin Luther King stood for our nation. The second part is to help them navigate through that process how those values are impacting their lives. We're wanting them to think critically. Because see, we're in the trenches now, voting and working hard to win. But are we getting our young people prepared to take the reign as we step back? So I need your help. The kids need your help. God bless you all. And the Democratic Club in the last 5 years have donated $500 every year And last year, we even passed an envelope around, and many of you dropped a few dollars in so that we could give free breakfast tickets to those individuals who are not able to come for whatever reason. So God bless you all. Oh, yes.
Can you pass your hat so we can put a donation in, please?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I have a bag, which is bigger. Yeah, well, thank you so much. But I'll be sitting here at the end of the meeting, and if you'd like to come up and throw some of your millions in, I would be happy to take it back to the kids. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Continue to be all you can be.
Thank you very much, Harry. As somebody who basically had to put myself through college, I can tell you the scholarships do make a difference. It's the difference between going and not going to college. So it's very, very vital. Our next speaker is Rosemary Nilles, thank you. And she's a retired educator that has found her new passion in civic engagement. She's the vice president of the League of Women Voters of Citrus County, and she's on the Education Action Team. And here she is to talk about what's going on with the state.
Thank you, Bill, for inviting me. This happened as a result of redistricting that Bill invited me here. Next slide. Let's see if I can manage this. Bill met my friend Jeannie from our Citrus League on the bus to Tallahassee last week, and they had a conversation, and the next thing I knew, I got an email, but I'm from Citrus, and I said, well, wait a minute, you guys have a League of Women Voters over here in the Villages, Tri-County, and I'm good friends with your president over here, Charlene Griffith. In fact, she helped me work on this presentation, but they're not available today, and so I hope I represent them well in the message that I give you. Certainly the League is nonpartisan. We're a grassroots organization. We never endorse a candidate or a party, but we definitely do get involved in issues, and that's after careful study and consensus. And we certainly are involved in redistricting because that is one of the things that impacts voters and elections, which is our main role. But at any rate, we do educate, we do advocate, we do both. We advocate in Tallahassee, and that's how I ended up being here. I wasn't on that trip. But we also educate citizens about voting, about their responsibilities and their rights. So, at any rate, moving forward, I've cut this in half because of time. So we'll talk a little bit about redistricting because you won't understand what's going on now without that. Focus on Florida, and then I'll leave you with some advocacy. Okay? So right now, a little bit about redistricting in general. First of all, go ahead, sorry. We can't talk about redistricting without talking about the decennial census every 10 years. You don't redistrict without new census data. Once that data is available, then each state then is allocated a portion, a certain number of representatives in Congress based on their population. So some states gain a few seats, some states lose a few seats. Texas gained a couple of seats after the 2020 census. Florida gained one, and our governor felt cheated, just as his word. But at any rate, redistricting only follows those two things. It's typically done, in fact, by constitution, it's done based on census data, so it happens every 2 years. How does it happen? The states draw their own maps. That's a state responsibility. Some of them have impartial commissions. Some of them, such as Florida, it's done strictly legislatively. Others are a combination. And they draw 3 different maps, one for state senate, state house, and one for Congress. Remember, there's only 435 seats in Congress, so that apportionment I mentioned, then that helps decide which communities, which voters are included in a particular congressional district and which ones are assigned to another. I wish I could tell you that it was fair. I wish I could say that only one party is involved in creating unfair districts, but I wouldn't be telling you the truth. So let's talk a little bit about gerrymandering. You've all heard the story of 1812. The governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry, drew a district that looked like a salamander. That's that top map, and that's where you get the name gerrymandering. You can click it again, right? Florida did it even after we passed the Fair Districts Amendment in 2010. They still made one that looked awfully gerrymandered. Next slide. Okay, so right now, you're hearing about it, but not as consistently as I think we should be hearing about it. Texas started the roll on redistricting, and the president said the quiet part out loud, quite frankly. He said, I want you to get 5 more seats in Congress for Texas, and the governor and his colleagues obliged, although there was certainly much dissent. It was very controversial. But Texas did roll forward, did reallocate their existing congressional seats, and of course lawsuits were filed. And just this past week, last week actually, the U.S. Supreme Court overruled a Texas judicial panel which said that new map would actually dilute the vote of racial minorities. So the Supreme Court overruled that and said it's too late. Keep that in mind. It's too late. We're in the middle of an election, and besides that, and I have to look at my notes here, well, changing would interfere, but that there was too much attention given to minorities in the lawsuit, and really there was no evidence that minorities would lose their voice. So they're doing it. Florida jumped in very early. It was July when Florida began talking. I'll talk more about that. You know about the other states. You're probably hearing Missouri's done it, North Carolina's done it, Indiana, their state senate just refused. So Virginia, Maryland, California, of course. So it's an ongoing process. The news changes every day. But it's all, no matter which side it's coming from, it's calculated. And it is for partisan gain. And that's before anybody has any of us have anything to say. So the league does have a position. Oh, I would have first, okay, is it legal? 11 states prohibit it in their constitutions. Florida, in our constitution, it says the legislature in the second session, following the decennial census, shall apportion the Senate. So it's interesting to see how they would like to get around that. The U.S. Constitution says we use that census data. But asking, has there ever been other mid-district redistricting? Yes. Texas did it twice, 2003 and again this year. Georgia did it in 2005. It has happened other times, but it's by court order in those other times. This was voluntarily done in those 2 states. Okay. Go ahead with the first one. This is animated. Okay, no matter when it happens, there are 2 federal components that must be followed. You can click the other one. The Federal Voting Rights Act, passed when most of us were teenagers, guarantees minority populations the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice under certain circumstances. So Section 2, you're going to be hearing about that, bars maps that would result in diluting that voting power of minorities. But at the same time, the U.S. Constitution's equal protection clause prohibits race from predominating. So that's why we have the scales. It's truly a balance, a very fine balance. And that Voting Rights Act has been slowly diminished over the years by the Supreme Court. So now I have to bring up Louisiana because this is impacting Florida and it's being brought up in Florida. On October 6th, the U.S. Supreme Court agreed to rehear a case regarding districts in Louisiana. And it goes back to 2021 when a district was drawn that basically diluted two black districts. Or black leaning, I mean they're minority leaning. So lawsuits were filed. The plaintiffs won, and Louisiana created two new districts, okay, that would comply with the Voting Rights Act. However, a group of white people and organizations took that to court and said, wait a minute, you violated Section 14 of the 14th Amendment. And so it went back and forth. The maps were reversed. It went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court heard it last spring, but then this past summer they said, we're going to hear it again, and we're going to look at Louisiana versus Calais in light of the equal protection. So if you are drawing a district to make sure that your minority population has a voice, able to elect candidates of their choice, is that a violation of the 14th Amendment? And that's why it's so important that you understand that. Okay, moving forward, we'll come back to that. The League of Women Voters of the U.S. has a pretty firm statement. We don't like it either way, okay? There is no tit for tat. It's political gamesmanship. It erodes public trust when it happens. It's got to be a fair process. It's got to be transparent. It needs to reflect voices of voters so that when people do make the trip to Tallahassee, that someone hears what they have to say. Didn't happen last week. We need fair, stable representation. We, as voters, should not be used in this pawns in a game of political one-upsmanship. So, now Florida. Okay, Florida has a long history. Next slide. Okay, one of the most gerrymandered states in the country, to the point where we had fair districts battles, but even after that was so-called settled, we've had 2 more battles, and now we're in the middle of another one. So moving on, I'll go quickly. We have that long history. The League and other voting rights groups helped to craft 2 amendments to our Constitution in Florida, 5 and 6, that would prohibit partisan gerrymandering and a few others. The League was very active in collecting petitions urging passage. Those 2 amendments, 5 and 6, were passed in 2010 with 63% yes votes, and they added new standards about districts to our Constitution, and that was the will of our people. You might ask, what's the difference? Amendment 5 refers to drawing state lines. Amendment 6 refers to drawing lines for congressional. But they both apply, they're almost identical. So, go ahead, sorry. So what are the fair districts? The main thing, the district's lines are not drawn to favor a political party or harm the voting power of certain racial or language minorities, and they need to be contiguous, in other words, connected, not a spot here and a spot here. Next slide. There is additional language which takes effect if possible, so long as it doesn't conflict with the first part. They need to be compact, geographically, aligned, like for example, the Withlacoochee River separates Citrus from Sumter. That's a geographic boundary. And take into account cities and counties. Try not to divide them up. So, pass passed in 2010. In 2011, the Florida legislature promised to adhere, and they didn't. So we've got this history. Go ahead. Okay, the short version. This was their gerrymander in 2012. They worked on it in 2011, but this is what they passed in 2012. Do you see the red at the top? Does that look gerrymandered to you? Years of litigation involving voting rights groups, including the League, and in 2015, the court did approve new maps, which are reflected at the bottom, and District 5 is the purple that was the red. And that is a district that was crafted to make sure that minorities would have the ability to elect the candidate of their choice. So, again, proud to be a League member. So, that was 2012. Now turn the calendar, year after year. Here we are again in 2020. We do the census in Florida. You can start it, but you wait until the second year. The legislature this time, they did their best. The League was mostly satisfied. They would have liked to have seen better, but it didn't matter because the governor immediately stepped in and drew his own map. And that map did eliminate that District 5 and that voting block as proven by the fact that that area was no longer able to elect a minority candidate because their vote was diluted. Lawsuits were filed, and just this July, the Florida Supreme Court upheld those maps. They ruled, here comes back to the 14th Amendment, they ruled that keeping the districts as had been in place, and I'll show you a map in a second, would represent a racial gerrymander, unconstitutional under the 14th Amendment. So the next slide, we'll compare the two. That's the original map from 2015 on your left, and you see that's a horizontal district. District 5 in the purple. It was divided up geographically north to south, which would be okay. It doesn't look like a bad map until you realize that the voting power of the minorities that live in that North Florida area was lost, and the following election proved it. Okay, and next slide is simply a map of Florida as it looks today. So people feel that it's still gerrymandered, that it still takes voices from racial or language minorities, but this is what we've got. Okay, roll back forward the clock, or the calendar of 2025. The noise is starting in Texas, and the quiet part has been said out loud. And Governor DeSantis makes several statements, which I'll review. He not only wants redistricting, but he wants us to get another seat in Congress. Now, what happens if you get a seat, if Florida would be given a seat? We only have 435. Somebody's going to lose their seat. Okay, and so I'll read you, or I'll talk to you about some of the statements. In September, the House Speaker, Daniel Perez, convened a committee of the Democrats and Republicans that reflects the demographics of the Florida House, which is basically a Republican supermajority. So it reflects those. I did have the names, okay. And nothing was said, nothing at all, nothing from the Senate. And finally, at the end of November, Representative Speaker Perez announced there would be 2 meetings. Bill and some of his colleagues, I forget your name, went on a bus along with League members and voting rights members from all over the state. Well over 100 people took their day last week to go, and not a word was said. No public testimony. Meanwhile, still nothing from the Florida Senate until this past week. Okay, so next slide. I want to tell you some of the justifications that have been given. In July, and these are all, these aren't direct statements because it would be like 5 slides, but and these are all statements by elected officials. The top 3 are from the governor. We were gypped, we need another seat, which would of course call for redoing the census, and that was discussed with the governor and the Attorney General Upmeyer. Also, the statement was made when we've had population shifts in Florida. So even if we don't get another seat, we should re-look at what we have. And then, this was all fresh off that Supreme Court decision that I mentioned in Florida. The Florida Supreme Court upheld the current maps, had made statements about to keep the former map would represent racial gerrymandering. So that empowered certainly the governor who bragged then publicly about his map being upheld. So there's 3 different statements have been made. I've got references for all of them. In fact, they're fresh off. Some of them are very fresh. Okay, in October, remember the Louisiana case at the Supreme Court? When that was determined that it would be heard, he said something. But in October, he made a statement which would be basically saying that the expected outcome. He expects that the Supreme Court is going to overturn the Louisiana case. They're going to overturn the use of the Voting Rights Act. There's Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act about minority representation. He's expecting that. And he made a Twitter statement, which I just would like to, it's gone. Oh, here it is. If the court rules that this is a quote, if the court rules that racial gerrymandering violates the Constitution, that would have implications for mid-decade redistricting in a number of states, including Florida. We anticipate the Supreme Court, to agree that it does in fact violate the Constitution. So depending on when when the Supreme Court rules, it could have an impact. Could? We don't know. Louisiana did ask for an expedited decision, but there have been no promises made. Now, those are statements made by elected officials. There was one unelected official who made a statement on October 29. He happened to be chair of the Republican Party, Evan Powell, and stated at a meeting that he thinks 3 to 5 Republican seats could be gained through redistricting. Now, Florida has 28 seats in Congress. 23 are, no, 20, now I have to stop and think. I had the numbers and they're gone, but we would gain 3 to 5 seats, so we would be left with 3 Democratic seats. Is that feeling like we're gerrymandered, especially after the information that Bill showed you? Really important information. So glad you had that. So at any rate, that was not an elected official, but it's been said, the quiet part's been said out loud. Okay, at the bottom, just this past week, Governor DeSantis had a press conference and again stated this time Florida is going to be forced to redistrict because of that Supreme Court. So, which makes no sense really, because the current map has already eliminated any minority opportunity to elect candidate of their choice. So I would think that Florida would already be fine in the U.S. Supreme Court size. Next one. Okay, so winding down here, I did want to mention a couple things that happened last week. Again, no public testimony, or this week, on the 10th, they met again, early in the morning this time. No public testimony, but some of the legislators on the committee pressed the House lawyer, who's part of the committee, to say that if there is if redistricting does move forward, they'd have to use that 2020 census data, which even the governor acknowledges it's too late now to ask for new count. But this House Speaker Perez, also an elected official, he stated this past week in an interview with Politico that there has been no pressure from the White House, no partisan pressure to redistrict. Instead, he says the House is moving forward because of this Florida Supreme Court district, or Supreme Court ruling in July that upheld the current maps. Remember the picture I showed you? So that's what he's saying. Nothing partisan about this. Meanwhile, we hadn't heard anything from the Florida Senate. No committees, no meetings. Senate Leader Ben Albritton finally made a statement this week that hold off. He basically said, we're going to hold off, let's see what happens with the Supreme Court, and let's gather all our information, and that's all on the next slide. Governor DeSantis became rather firm this week about what he wants. He wants a special session in the spring. Now, the session ends March 13th. Dates for congressional filing in Florida, I believe it's April 20th to 24th. I have it on a slide. He would like to wait. Can any of you think of any advantages to waiting? Well, if the U.S. Supreme Court said it's too late now to interfere with Texas. So there may be some advantages to waiting. He's also hoping for that Supreme Court, and he stated, in fact, he said once that Supreme Court decision is made, we're going to have to redistrict. Ben Albritton is telling his senators, be cautious, watch what you say, keep good records. So all my phone calls to him, I don't know if they're part of a record now, but I keep calling him because I didn't have a senator to call until this Tuesday evening. So I've been calling him, but he does support in the spring, maybe we'll have more information. A little bit of turmoil here. House Speaker Perez says, no, we should be doing this now. We shouldn't be dragged back to Tallahassee in April or March or whenever. Why can't we do this now? Why can't we at least get started? So literally this information is hot off the press. Okay, obviously, the league doesn't like it. Am I out of time? Okay, the league doesn't like it. And there are lots of talking points. Look at our website. They're probably the same talking points that you've already seen. It's not right for politicians to choose their own voters. We should be choosing our politicians. So I'll leave it at that. You've got a little history lesson.
Thank you very much, Rosemary. A gentleman that's running for Congress who's probably going to be dealing with these districts. His name is Royal Webster. Royal grew up in Miami. And his mother was Cuban, dad was American. Dad passed away at 8 years old, so Royal basically has really done it on his own. Anyway, I'd like just to introduce him and let him take it from here.
Good morning. My name is Royal Webster. I assure you I am not related to Daniel Webster. Before I start with anything, the problem with redistricting, as what Rosemary was saying, as far as running for the 11th district, is I may be talking to people that aren't going to be in the 11th district if they redistrict, right? So the advantage goes to the incumbent, as it always does. And he's been an incumbent in one position or another for 45 years. And one of the things I've always learned in my life is one of the most important abilities is availability. And Daniel Webster is not available at all. Now, real quick, I want to recognize a couple of people that came here. I didn't tell them why I was asking them to come here. But there's two young men that are students at University of Florida. Sammy and Scotty, stand up, please. I coached these two young men. Sammy is in second grade all the way through high school, I'm a high school coach, high school teacher, and Scotty since 8th grade. Have a seat, guys. Kathy Cannon is my campaign manager. If you want to know anything about social security or Medicaid, she's my guru. And then Eric and Maria Groves, stand up, please. I had the pleasure of being married to a team sergeant 35 years ago. And if you want to know, after this is over, if you want to ask me any questions and you have any questions for me, please ask me. If you have any questions about me, those are the people you need to talk to. They are my testimony. Right? All right, so we talked a little bit about the redistricting and stuff. I never wanted nor thought I would be a politician, ever. My duty was to serve. I have served in the military, in the Army. Go Army, be Navy. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. I've worked in the community my entire life. I never thought I'd be a politician. And notice I say I'm a politician. A lot of people will get up here running for their first thing and say that they're not a politician. I got news for them. As soon as they file, as soon as they sign that line, they're a politician. I don't run away from anything. Cows, when a storm comes, they lay down and they let the storm hit them. Buffaloes, the mascot of the village's charter school, are smart animals. They turn into the storm and they attack the storm because they realize that the faster that they go through the storm, the less damage the storm will have on them. So your mascot for the village's charter school is a phenomenal choice. So Bill talked about affordability. Talked about cabbage, talked about orange juice. I'm going to talk to you about meat. Because if you haven't noticed, meat is way on the rise. It's almost filet mignon. We're lucky to get hamburgers nowadays, right? There's a lot of reasons why the price of meat have gone up. And it's almost a perfect storm. Right now, the amount of cattle in the United States is at a 70-year low. We haven't had this few cattle in 70 years. The big problem with that is 70 years ago, we were half the size we are now. Our population has doubled, and we still have the same amount of cattle as we did 70 years ago. Add to that, that some of the beef that we used to get came from Mexico. It's not tariffs. There's a new screwworm that has infiltrated the cattle industry in Mexico and has made the meat non-consumable. That rises up the price, lack of supply. And then this administration got angry because Brazil put their former president in jail. They convicted him for 26 years, they put him in jail, and he's a friend of the current president, and they got upset. And instead of looking at anything and doing something that would help our country, they raised tariffs on Brazil 47%. Guess who we import the most meat from anywhere in the world? Brazil. So those three things have combined to where prices are almost non-achievable to buy meat. Now, he has rescinded the tariffs, and prices will start dropping in a couple months. But the tariff should have never been raised because he doesn't care about the populace of this country. He cares about his friends and the billionaires that he supports, right? The other thing that we can do, and Congress can do right now, and most of you will remember, in 1971, inflation was starting to skyrocket. And Congress enacted the Inflation Stabilization Act, which was signed into law by President Richard Nixon. And it was supposed to be a 90-day freeze on everything. No, rents couldn't go up across the country, everything was frozen for 90 days. It actually lasted 17 months because Congress kept re-signing it. And that was great because the prices did lower and inflation did start to drop. Watergate happened, other things transpired, and then in 1973, the Yom Kippur War in Israel happened, and OPEC got really, really mad at us supporting, the Middle East, the OPEC countries got really mad for the United States supporting Israel. And overnight, they raised prices from oil from $2 a barrel to $10, a 500% increase overnight. And that started inflation really rolling. And if we remember 1979, interest rates were all the way up at 12.9, right? So there are things though, if Congress would stabilize the inflation rate, we'd be better off. And then we have the misleading cost of gasoline. As I was driving here, I saw gas is low, it's $2.66. And that's what this president points to, the price of gasoline. But that's misleading. Why is that misleading? The reason the price of gas is down has nothing to do with our country. OPEC again, since April, listen to this number, 670,000 barrels per day increase of oil shipping out. That oversupply has flooded the market and dropped the prices. Now, for consumers, that's good news on the short term. Long term, it's not so good news. ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, Chevron, pull up their employments. They have cut employment anywhere from 15% to 25%. Going into 2026, they're looking at cutting 18,000 employees from their companies because OPEC is flooding the market. Why is OPEC flooding the market? Because Venezuela is part of OPEC. It is a founding member of OPEC. What are we doing with Venezuela? And we can get into the legalities of bombing these narco-terrorists, and notice I say narco-terrorists, and there's a reason I'm going to come back to that. The legality of it, and everybody's focusing on the military, the Geneva Convention, whether it was legal for that first boat that we struck to go back and strike it again when there was 2 survivors on the boat, and whether it's murder or not. If the military was doing it, it's against the Geneva Convention, it's against every military thing that was taught to me, and I'm sure was taught to the colonel. Is it really the military bombing? Do we know that? Has anybody said the military is bombing them? The CIA has drones with Hellfire missiles armed to them. I do not know this for a fact. But in the Army, I was an intelligence analyst, and I know how to analyze things, and I know how to analyze statements that are made. Nowhere has the administration said that it was the military bombing them. It said that they were authorizing the bombing. The CIA is legally allowed to use drones with Hellfire missiles to attack terrorist organizations, which they have deemed these boats to be a part of. That's why these congressmen, Republican, that are coming out, right, of these meetings are saying everything they're doing is within the law. They're not saying within the military law. They're saying within their realm of authority. Do I know this for a fact? No. But I know when a duck's swimming, his feet are moving, and I don't see that either. Right? So, why am I here? To serve. 100% to serve. I am not here so you can listen to me. I really am not. I came here so at the end, or whenever, I can listen to you. Because my concern is your concern. My concern is how I can help you once I get up to Washington, D.C., and turning this program around, turning Congress around. I didn't shy away from being a politician because of the stigma. I embrace it because I want to change what a politician is, and what a politician can be, and what people think about politicians. If you have any questions at this time, and I did this on purpose, I don't believe in stump speeches. That's not me, right? Please feel free. Ask me any question you want about any policy, any issue, or anything at all, and I'll give you my best answer. If it's about Social Security, we can talk about the beginning of the problem, but I'm telling you, that young lady over there, she's my go-to person for Social Security or Medicaid. Does anybody have any questions or issues or concerns about anything? Yes, ma'am.
really love the fact that you're a teacher, a coach. Those people made my life a difference, so thank you for doing that. My question is this. A lot of us here, we're out every time there's a rally, we're out at rallies, we're doing everything we can, okay? But the House Democrats are showing us nothing, doing nothing. What will you do to change that?
To this district, I've been held accountable every minute of my life by somebody, whether it's the military, whether it's the Board of Education, and I promise you that I will come back here and face you. And I will not only come here if I am elected and the Republican committees want to have a town meeting and have it between the two of you or individually or wherever it is, I am accountable to all 900,000 constituents in this district. What I plan to do when I go up there, and I've spoken about this in an interview I did, anybody who thinks that they're going to go up and change Congress is naive, right? But what I can do is I can evaluate, I can communicate, I can set a course and find a way, a path to attack, and then attack that path. Come up with a plan of action and find out. For instance, this hits really close to my heart. There's an act right now that's sitting in Congress, in the Senate to be exact, that has the approval of 70 senators and over 300 congressmen. That act is not being acted on because Senator Wicker from Mississippi is holding it in committee. It is the Major Richard Starr Act. What it does is allows people that were medically discharged because Major Starr was hurt in combat and is incapable of having a job. It would allow him to collect medical retirement pay and disability pay. Currently, you can't do that. You can only collect one or the other, right? So one of my first acts to go there to hold them accountable for is to meet with Senator Wicker. He's an Air Force veteran. I don't understand why he won't allow it to go past committee. He is the Armed Forces chair, so he's holding it back. One person should not have control of a bill that benefits so many people, but it happens so often. There's over 5,000 bills right now, 34 for military veterans. I'm not saying all 5,000 bills are good. I haven't been able to read all 5,000, but I promise you I have read 200 of them. And about 140 of them benefit both sides of the fence. And they're held up. Why? Because if the Democrat brings it up, the Republicans turn it down. If the Republicans turn it down, the Democrats. If the Republicans bring the bill up, the Democrats turn it down, right? The bickering and the one-upsmanship and the catering to the man that is in the Oval Office by the Republican side is incredible. But also, if there is a good idea, we should just come together, bipartisan. Bernie Sanders has 2 bills. The keep billionaires out of Social Security, and the other one, I forget the name of it, but they're both for Social Security, and they make perfect sense, and it benefits longevity-wise everybody. And they won't let it come to vote on it. What I'll do is I'll try to hold them accountable, but I promise you I will be accountable. Any other questions or issues?
Thank you so much for entering. Could you tell me what your position is on climate change?
On climate change. So, my father-in-law is a retired weatherman from NOAA, which if it would be for this president, NOAA would no longer exist, and it has been gutted. But I've had long conversations with him over the last 25 years. Climate change is real. If anybody can tell you exactly what is causing climate change, I don't think they can. But I believe in science. And the difference between me and many people are that when somebody says I don't believe in science, I tell them you don't understand science. The tooth fairy is something you believe in. Science is something either you understand or you don't understand. And that's fine. because there's a lot of stuff scientifically that I can't understand, and that's why I surround myself with great people. But my father-in-law told me, 25 years ago, climate change is real. It is a combination of both natural things, because our Earth does go through climate changes, but it has been accelerated by humans. And it's been accelerated to a dangerous point. If you go to where there were glaciers in Argentina, in Antarctica, in Alaska, in the Arctic, those glaciers are shrinking. And they're shrinking daily, not weekly, not monthly, daily they're shrinking. So yes, I believe there is climate change. Is anything going to happen before 2029? No, because this president won't sign anything that you bring up. I'm also very realistic, right? We're not going to get anything passed until I get the honor of pushing yes for impeachment. But we have to be realistic, but it doesn't mean we can't prepare when there's a reasonable person in the Oval Office and start putting bills through that help everybody. Any other questions? None? If you have any questions, perfect. I respect your time. I really do. I could sit up here, trust me. Sammy and Scotty will tell you I can talk a long time, right? But I do respect your time. If you have any questions about me, please ask the people that came with me. If you have any questions for me, I'll be available to you. Thank you very much. I am honored and humbled to be here.
Thank you very much, Royal, for being able to be available to field any other questions. Before we conclude the meeting, I just want to mention about in your lanyard, feel free to take out the history of the recent history of the elections that have occurred in Florida. You can keep that. It's a nice little thing, or it's a nice thing to share with other folks who are concerned or who think that Florida may not be purple, but it is. And the other item is the orange ballots. If you want to just leave them on the chairs, we'll collect those. So thank you very much. Yes.
The bag marked with pink donation. I don't think it's made it around.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we conclude. Just want to say happy holidays to everybody and look forward to seeing you in January. Thank you.